Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jordan and welcome to today's video, which I'm calling my spooky season vlog. I have a few books on my physical TBR that I have been saving for this time of the year. They just give me those creepy Halloween-y type vibes, and I'm excited to finally be reading them in a video. A couple of them have just been staring at me with their beautiful, beautiful covers. And if all goes according to plan, I should be releasing this on or just before Halloween. So hopefully you are getting into that spooky season feeling yourself as well. And if not, if you just want to live vicariously through me for a little bit, then that's great too. I do have 3 books that I'll be reading for this video, and because I don't plan to come in with a bunch of like midpoint updates, I think I'm just gonna give the full summary and my full review after I've finished each book. That will leave this video a little bit on the shorter side, so I thought I would supplement those clips with some b-roll with what my family is getting up to right now during the month of October. During the Halloween season, we have a couple of events that we'll be going to that I think the kids will be dressing up for. But all of that is to come. Let's first talk about the books that I will be reading in this video. So the first book I have and will be reading is called Wicked Darlings by Jordyn Taylor. Fun fact, if you're relatively new to my channel, my name is Jordyn and it is spelled with a Y, just like this author. And also my middle name is Taylor. So this author's name is the exact same as my first and middle names, which I think is really cool. I discovered her as an author completely randomly a few years ago, and I really enjoyed the books that I read by her, and now I'm keeping up with every book that she puts out. I would consider her to be one of my favorite authors at this point. She so far has published only young adult books, though I do believe she has an adult book coming soon. But this is a young adult mystery thriller. I don't really know what the plot of this book is or what to expect. I'm just gonna go into it not knowing much, because like I said, I fully trust this author and I think I'm going to enjoy whatever it is she writes. But this cover I find really beautiful. The spine of this book I also find really pretty. So I'm excited to just get this book read and get it onto my shelves because it is so beautiful. And like I said, I think I'm gonna like it. Then the next book I have is an equally stunning book, if I do say so myself. It's called Darkly by Marisha Pessl, another author that I have read from before and really enjoyed. This is the author of Neverworld Wake, which is a kind of a sci-fi thriller featuring young adult characters that get stuck in a time loop. I believe this is also a young adult book. I believe it's also a mystery thriller, but I have no idea if it leans more horror or has any sci-fi in it either. I don't know. Yet again, I'm just trusting an author that I have enjoyed in the past to give me a fun and spooky time. Yet again, a beautiful cover. On the top it says, "You don't own a Darkly game, it owns you." And yes, this is a signed copy gifted to me by one of my really great in-person friends, Lisa. I think she is also buddy reading this one with me near the same time, so that will be fun to discuss with her. And then the third book that I will be reading is a book that I was gifted by Bethany over at the channel Beautifully Bookish Bethany, who not only has a booktube channel but also works in the publishing industry, and as far as I understand is working with this author to do some promo for this book. So I did get gifted not only a copy of this book, but also some additional items like some cute strawberry stickers. I'm assuming strawberries have some sort of significance within the book itself. There are some papers in here with information about the author and then a note from the author about like solving the mystery of the book. And then lastly, there is a map that came along with it, which is cute. It looks like it's printed on like lined notebook paper, but this I think will be pretty helpful while reading the book, especially if I'm trying to solve the mystery. But this, I believe, is also a young adult mystery thriller. I think it's about 2 girls who, oh yeah, they were picking strawberries together when one of them disappeared, was taken or something, and the other one wasn't, but she has no memory of what happened to her friend. So I think it'll be somewhat solving the mystery of that. However, the cover of this book is extremely creepy, and also the title of it is called The Creeping. So I'm not sure if this also has some darker, more horror elements to it or what, but I'm interested to give this book a try and find out, and I will definitely let you know. So that is the plan for this video. I'm gonna go ahead and get on reading. Before my first update clip, I am going to insert a few just kind of fall vibe clips that I've taken with my family recently. It's been a little bit unseasonably warm lately around here, so we have done more playing outside this fall than we normally get to. Where I live in the Midwest United States, it usually gets a little colder a little earlier, but we've been taking full advantage of the more summery weather. So I'll insert some of those b-roll clips here, and then I will be back with my first reading update once I have finished my first book from this stack.
gonna do a very fun activity to decorate things. Yeah, with fun little stickers. Yeah.
Okay, I have finished my first book for this vlog and I'm really excited to tell you about Wicked Darlings because I really enjoyed this. But before I get to what this book is about and my thoughts on it, I wanted to reiterate that I'm a really big fan of this author. I believe this is her 5th book that she has put out and I have read, and I own all 4 of her previous books. And they are all young adult books, but they are a couple of different genres. So firstly, she writes young adult historical fiction. Her first ever book was called The Paper Girls of Paris, and then she has The Rebel Girls of Rome. They are kind of formatted similarly, but they are both standalone books, obviously set in Paris and Rome, but they are young adult historical fiction that follow young women going through interesting things. I think I gave both of these 4 stars. And then she also writes young adult mystery thriller books that honestly feel pretty different from those historical fiction books. But her 2 young adult mystery thrillers are called Don't Breathe a Word and The Revenge Game. I also really enjoyed both of these. I think I gave The Revenge Game 3 or 4 stars, and then Don't Breathe a Word I think is my only 5-star book from this author. So it's definitely my favorite so far. I do highly recommend it if you like young adult mystery thrillers. And that brings us to Wicked Darlings. And obviously, given my track record, I was excited to get into this one. I was hoping to enjoy it as much as those other books, and I really did. I'm gonna give this one 4 stars. This book read to me like an episode of Gossip Girl. Like, that is the vibe of this book. Specifically an episode where they get into some really, high stakes, somebody has died type of situations. And you're reading about like really rich people, specifically really rich teenagers who have means, and because of that feel like they are either above the law or they can pay their way out of any situation. And like they just get away with so much, but it has to come crumbling down at some point. And it's just like addicting to watch. That's how I felt reading this book, because this follows our main character named Noah, who at the beginning of this book, we learn that her older sister died. Noah is like 17, 18 years old, and her sister was in college when she died, and her sister was going to school to become a journalist, which Noah was always a little bit annoyed about because Noah wanted to be a journalist. And she has very complicated feelings about her life now that her sister is gone. And it all kind of comes to a head at the beginning of the book when she finds out that some secrets were being kept from her regarding her sister's death. That makes our main character want to look into it a little bit more. So it's almost a little bit Good Girl's Guide to Murder-ish as well, because it is a young adult, like aspiring journalist using those like amateur detective, amateur reporter skills to get the information she wants in order to solve, in this case, the mystery of her sister's death. And what she ends up doing is becoming friends with this brother and sister who are like, Blair Waldorf and Nate Archibald type of people who are super rich. They live in New York City, and our main character kind of makes friends with them in order to get into their world and get more information about who they were surrounded by and the people that her sister was surrounded by before her death. And yeah, it was just fun and entertaining. And was it anything mind-blowing? No. By the end, I felt like I had a pretty good idea of, who was responsible for her sister's death. So I definitely couldn't give it a 5-star for that reason. Like, it wasn't anything new that I hadn't watched or read before, but it was a really fun time. Gossip Girl is a show that I love. This type of book for me works a little bit better in young adult format because I can understand somebody having access to so much in terms of money and resources and still being so immature as a teenager to make the really dumb decisions that you need to make in order to make a mystery thriller interesting. Whereas in my opinion, if you take this and age it up and we're following adults in this type of ritzy group of friends and group of people, it just really quickly becomes like, okay, these are not believable adults acting like adults. I don't know. I can understand and forgive like the over the topness a little bit more when it's in a young adult book. So hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, this is probably definitely not my favorite Jordyn Taylor book, but up there, probably in my top half. And I'm really excited because she does have a new book coming out next year that is her adult contemporary romance debut. And I'm very excited to get my hands on that as soon as it comes out. So I'm excited to have that book down and for that to have been an overall good experience. I am now going to get into my next book. I think I'm going to go ahead and go with The Creeping because I need to read that one physically. So I want to knock that out as quickly as I can, and then I can breeze through my last book because I have an audio for it after that. So back to a little bit of fun Halloween season B-roll, and then I'll be back with my next book update once I have it. Okay, I just finished The Creeping, and I feel like I have a lot to say about this book. And it kind of all stems from the fact that I did not really know what to expect when I started this book. I didn't really know what to expect from a genre perspective. I didn't know what to expect given that I haven't heard anybody else talk about or review this book. And I didn't know what to expect because I have read a lot of books for review sent to me directly by authors or on various review websites for books that don't have very many reviews on them. And I have had a wide range of experiences with those types of books. That is to say, I have read some that are just flat out awful, that I feel like are really low quality books, that aren't written well, etc., etc. And on the other hand, I have found some really hidden gems, and that's why I continue to take books like these, you know, to a certain extent, because I want to love them. I would love to be the person to, you know, platform a book that hasn't had a chance to find its audience. So I was interested to give this one a try, and obviously I was hoping that it would be the latter. And I do have to say that I really enjoyed this book. I'm kind of not firmly set in my rating quite yet. I do think maybe talking through it right now will help solidify my thoughts a little bit, but there were many things in this book that I really enjoyed, and there were a few things that I didn't enjoy quite as much. But I do feel like this is a book I can pretty solidly talk about and pitch in order to hopefully help it find its intended audience. So first of all, a little bit about this book. It was originally published, I want to say in 2017. Nope, 2015. And it's now been, I don't know if it's been fully redesigned or what all has gone into this kind of re-release of the book, but it is essentially being re-released, I'm guessing in order to breathe some new life into the book and hopefully find some new readers. And this book, I would say, is a young adult. It's like a perfect split between a thriller and a horror, in my opinion, especially considering that it's young adult. And so by that I mean, like, the horror elements are not all that graphic or all that horrific because it's intended for more of that young adult audience and it follows teenaged main characters. But for me, that kind of riding the line between thriller and horror comes from the premise of the book and the fact that while you're reading it, you really don't know if it's going to stay realistic or if it's going to verge into the supernatural side. And to me, anything that does go supernatural is kind of horror by nature, but it does also feel kind of spoilery to say which side it ends up on. So I'd rather pitch it as like a thriller horror genre blend so that people who are open to that or open to either type of book will understand that that's kind of what they can expect from this one. I will also say off the bat that to me, this cover is a lot scarier than the book itself is. There are certainly creepy moments within this book, and it is overall like a mystery thriller horror book. So like it's scary-ish, but to me, that's like a very haunting book cover. Like my husband does not like anything scary, and I showed this to him and he didn't really want to look at it anymore. So I don't know, to me this cover doesn't totally convey really the tone of the book, but I guess if you're okay with reading a book that looks this scary, then maybe you're set up more for success than somebody who like doesn't want a scary book and ends up stumbling upon something that is a little bit more horror adjacent. I don't know. I don't really feel like this book cover matches the tone of the book, but that's okay. Okay, the plot of this book, we are following our main character named Stella. And Stella is a high school student, and when she was 6 years old, her and one of her best friends named Jeannie were out playing in Jeannie's front yard. Basically, they had like strawberry plants. They were playing within the strawberry plants when Jeannie was taken, never to be found, presumed dead, but Stella was left unharmed. And that is something that has kind of haunted Stella for the rest of her life. Not only the fact that that happened and everybody in her town knew that that happened, so she became kind of this spectacle in her hometown as the girl that survived whatever happened to Jeannie, but she's also been haunted because she has completely forgotten everything that happened that day. And she's gone through various emotions related to that. You know, she's definitely gone through guilt for not remembering something that could potentially give justice to whoever did that to her best friend. It could also help provide some answers and closure to Jeannie's family, but also she's ultimately had to live with this, come to terms with it. And it's been, 11 or 12 years or whatever since that happened. So also her life has moved on. But the sort of inciting incident of this book is that Stella is at this kind of teenage spooky party thing, and she ends up walking through this graveyard and she stumbles upon a dead body. And it's the dead body of a young girl who looks really similar to how Jeannie looked. And of course, Stella is the person to stumble upon this. And because of Stella's connection to that old crime and the appearance of the young girl, basically this old cold case is dug back up, and Stella decides for herself that she is going to put in the effort to try to remember what happened. And even if she can't remember, she's going to do some investigating to see if she can figure out what happened to Jeannie. So it's not all that, original or groundbreaking of a premise, in my opinion. It definitely sounds in line with other mystery thrillers, but the things that made this book unique are definitely that fact that it kind of leans supernatural at times. This book goes into some folklore related to Minnesota history. This is set in Minnesota, which is kind of fun. That's really close to where I live. And also there's a quite prominent romantic subplot within here. And I think I liked both of those things. I liked that those set this apart a little bit from other young adult mystery thrillers that I've read. One thing I'm not sure about how I feel about within this book is that this book talks a lot about female friendship and kind of friendship in general, because this book follows teenagers. Our main character is a teenager who's really flawed, and she has a flawed current best friend. And there's a lot of like overly dramatic, representation is not quite the right word, but representation of friendship in here that's like really highlighting mean girl energy. And I feel like it was trying to have some commentary on that, but I'm not quite sure where I'm landing on that topic. I'm not sure if this is doing justice to the idea that people are flawed, especially teenagers are flawed people. They deserve a little bit of grace when they're going through things, first of all, but also just growing up. They're gonna make mistakes, they're gonna hurt people. And I think I agree with that, but also, I see the other side of like, if you're writing a book, I do generally prefer books that have strong, moral compasses to them and show like, maybe not an ideal situation, but like a healthy situation to help people see that and want to emulate it within their own life, especially within young adult books. That part of the book and just the overall message that this book is trying to have towards that topic, I'm a little iffy on. The other thing I didn't love so much in this book is, first of all, the length. It is 390 pages long. It started to feel pretty long, and especially in the second half and maybe even like the last quarter of the book, I was really at the point where I was like, okay, can we please wrap this up? Can you please just tell me what happened? But then it does exactly that. And by that, I mean, it's a pretty big dump of information at the end that is kind of the explanation, or our main character finding out what happened. And I feel like we could have cut something out from maybe the third quarter of the book to help us get to that conclusion a little bit faster. But then also I think I would have preferred some of the reveals to be done in a little bit more interesting or creative ways. I don't know, it just felt very drawn out and then very abrupt. But with all that said, I did enjoy my reading experience of this book. I was invested the whole time. I did really want to know the ending to the mystery. I did also come to care about the main character and her romantic love interest, and I found myself enjoying those romantic scenes in the book. I mean, it doesn't get explicit or anything. Again, it's young adult age range, but yeah, I don't know, those parts of the book I thought were cute. So I kind of am leaning between 3 and 4 stars. Its true rating in my head is probably like 3.5. I just have to decide if I'm going to rate it 3 stars on Goodreads or round up to 4 stars. I don't know, maybe I'll make up my mind on that in the next day or so. But for the purposes of this video, it is about a 3.5. And it definitely is a book I would recommend if that overall premise sounds interesting to you. This one definitely is more like down-to-earth, small town feeling compared to the first book I read in this video. That was very, you know, Manhattan's elite. Even though they're both young adult mystery thrillers, they felt very different. So that's exciting, and I'm glad I enjoyed it. And now I can get on to the third and final book for this video. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop on the audiobook of Darkly, and I'll be back with my next update on it once I finish. Okay, I just finished the last book for this video. I finished Darkly, and sadly, I did not love this book as much as I was hoping to. Just to get right into it. On paper, this book has a lot of things that I really should love. It is a young adult sort of mystery book is what I would say. It's not so much a thriller as much as it is kind of like a whimsical feeling contemporary book that ends up having a mystery to it. And it's about this main character who is a high school student, and she gets invited to this internship hosted by basically the estate or the empire of this woman who was a really renowned game designer, like of these really fun sort of Clue style board games. And her main character, named Dia, is a big fan of this lady and these board games. She's a very logical person, but she's not super sure why she was selected to take part in this internship. It was kind of like a Willy Wonka type of selection process. I mean, she did have to apply, but like there were so many applicants and only like 6 or 7 were chosen from around the whole world that it felt very luck-based. And like I said, this main character isn't exactly sure why she was chosen above hundreds or thousands, who knows how many other applicants. And then yeah, once she gets there, the interns are basically put through a series of rounds of this game that this lady is so famous for creating. And that's the part that I want to say I enjoyed, but also, I don't know, something about the game was very confusing to me because it's not just a straightforward board game. It's a little bit more than that, and it at times verged on magical feeling. I'm actually not sure if it was supposed to feel magical or if it was supposed to be completely realistic. It almost reminded me of The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer, because that is a book where it was a group of adults, but they were brought to this island of this author, and he runs them through a bunch of like riddles and contests and things like that. And I loved that one because those riddles and games were almost playable by the reader along with the characters of the book. So that was a book I had a lot of fun with. Plus it had a big emotional element to it. This one, the games themselves just felt very abstract, hard to picture, hard to really understand what the point was of the games. So that was a bummer that I didn't really connect with that part of this book. And then also the other part of this book that I wasn't expecting is that the mystery element comes in and there's a lot of multimedia elements added into the book. So I actually did go ahead and just tab every single one of those. I actually listened to the audiobook of most of this book and I got about halfway through the book before I even realized that what I was hearing were like multimedia elements. So then I picked up the book, I tabbed all these, and then I went back to reference, you know, the ones that I had skipped over, and then kind of kept track of where I was as I went forward so that I could make sure to reference the book itself, especially because some of them are just photographs, like things that if you're reading the audiobook, it really can't replace for you with just the description. I mean, are these super make or break elements that if you don't look at them physically, you will not understand the story? No, but I do think seeing the multimedia elements with your eyes is the best way to consume them because obviously they're in the book to add something. So once I realized that those were part of the book, I definitely made a point to pay attention to the physical version more. So I'm glad I did that. But that made this book feel a lot more similar to Night Film, which was written by this author. And once I made that connection and remembered and realized that this author wrote Night Film and I didn't love Night Film, I actually didn't really like it at all, it made more sense why this book was also not clicking for me. Just something about the multimedia elements and the way that Marisha Pessl is trying to build this like really convoluted grand scale mystery and add in these clues that I'm not sure if they're supposed to make it so that the reader feels like they can solve the mystery along with the characters, or if they're just supposed to be fun additions to this story that is a pretty wild ride that you're just along for. I don't know, either way, to me, it just made me feel kind of lost the whole time. And by the time I got to the end to, you know, solve the mystery or to read about the characters solving the mystery, it just lost its impact a little bit for me. So I sadly was not super invested in this story. I wasn't super entertained by it. I wasn't as thrilled by the game elements as I thought I would be. And I was overall just pretty underwhelmed. So I think this one also is going to end up being 2 stars. I say also because I just talked about Night Film. I do think if you liked Night Film and you're open to a young adult kind of version of that book with a creepy abstract sort of game element thrown in as well, then absolutely I would recommend this book to you. I'm extra disappointed because this author wrote Neverworld Wake, which is more of a sci-fi, that's like a time loop book about a group of teenagers who are stuck living the same day over and over until they can make a really hard decision. I loved that book. I gave it 5 stars. And I've been waiting and hoping that Marisha Pessl will write a book either similar to that one or that gives me the same feelings as that book did. I was hoping this would be that, but unfortunately it was not. But that's all right. You win some, you lose some. I still am in awe of this book cover. I love it. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I do think I will keep this book on my shelves because it's so beautiful, because it's a signed copy, because it is fun to kind of flip through these, you know, multimedia elements within the book since I went through the effort of tabbing them. I don't know. I'll keep this book, and when my daughter is a teenager, maybe she'll want to read it and maybe she'll enjoy it more than me. But yeah, unfortunately not a winner overall. And with that, I obviously have completed the 3 books that I was wanting to read for this video, and we had kind of a mixture of results. Not really what I was expecting, but to recap, 2 stars to Darkly by Marisha Pessl. I think I'm gonna land at 3 stars for The Creeping by Alexandra Sirowy. And then 4 stars for Wicked Darlings, my favorite of this group, definitely the most fun to read, and continues to signal to me that I need to continue picking up every book that Jordyn Taylor writes in the future. Overall, were these the creepiest, scariest, most thrilling, horrifying books that I could have read for this type of Halloween vlog? No, but these were books that I had on my shelf that I've been excited to read for a little while, and they did fit the general theme I was going for, so I'm happy about that as well. So with that, let me know if you have also read any of the books that I talked about in this video, and if you did, read. Let me know your thoughts. If you haven't read any of them, let me know if I convinced you to pick any of them up, especially with my range of ratings. Maybe if you have similar tastes to me, you got one rec. If you have opposite tastes as me, you took another rec. Or maybe this confirmed for you that you don't need to pick any of them up. Just let me know. Did I add to your TBR or did I save you from a purchase? I'd also love to hear what any of you are up to this Halloween, if you have any fun plans for this weekend, or if you're ready to get past this holiday and into the rest of the holiday season, which is definitely going to be busy. Just let me know. I'm ready to chat in the comments. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.